اهلا بيكم مره تانية. واعتقد السيشن الاولانيه كانت مليانه lots of messages، بس اعتقادي اهم حاجه في القصه كلها هي كلمه الانتجريشن، واعتقد الاستاذ حاتم خاطر بدا بيها ونهى بيها. انتجريشن في غايه الاهميه، واعتقادي ان احنا اكيد مدركين مدى اهميه دور القطاع الخاص والمجتمع المدني، بالذات في ظل غياب قدره الدوله لسه ان هي تملا الفراغ بالكامل. واعتقادي ان حاجه علموها لنا زمان في الاداره حاجه جميله جدا اللي اسمها السيركلز اوف انفلونس اكتر من السيركلز اوف انترست، دوائر التاثير. واحنا حتى في البريكس اتكلمنا مع ناس كتيره من حضراتكم، ما شاء الله في مشروعات عبقريه كتيره جدا. كلما حضراتكم عملتوا الدور ده كلما الملعب اتفتح جدا بالنسبه لنا وحققنا نتائج حقيقيه على الارض ان شاء الله. مش عايز اضيع وقتكم اكتر من كده، عندنا سيشنز كتيره لسه ان شاء الله. السيشن اللي جايه هي سيشن اصحابها قرروا يغيروا الموديل بتاعها عشان تكيب الانرجي، يخلوا فيه الطاقه موجوده في القاعه ونفس الحماس وكله. فبنشكر اولا دينا شريف وسلمى السايح representing هما ahead of the curve. دينا هي CEO ahead of the curve، وهيكلمونا على trends of corporate responsibility practices في الارب وورلد. هنتكلم على كل الترندز، الانماط السائده دلوقتي. العالم العربي بيطبق كل ما يتعلق بالمسؤوليه المجتمعيه ازاي، وهنقارن بمصر، فالعمليه تكون فيها ارقام. هي كان المفروض هتعمل برزنتيشن وبعدين قررت لا يعملوها في شكل حوار عشان ياخد شكل حماسي كده، كل الاسئله اللي ممكن تدور في بال الناس، حتى الاسئله اللي ممكن تبقى يعني مش كويسه، تسال على الارقام اللي بتوجع اللي احنا عامه بنخبيها في البرزنتيشنز او غيره. فنستمتع بيهم ان شاء الله. وانا بشكركم جدا ان انتم استحملتونا النهارده واستحملتوني شخصيا، وان شاء الله اشوفكم بعد كده دايما في نجاحات قويه باذن الله. شكرا جزيلا.
Okay, I think it's working now. Can we still have the PowerPoint, please? Anyway, just before we get started, just to get some energy in the room, again, my name is Dina Shariff. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Ahead of the Curve. Ahead of the Curve was founded almost 3 years ago to promote responsible business practice and social entrepreneurship in the Middle East. So very quickly, I'm going to count to 3, and I want all of you to yell out CSR. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. No, that's not loud enough, I'm sorry. Again, we're gonna try again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one last time, and really everyone outside has to hear you. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, much better. So this is a bit unorthodox. We wanted to do a presentation about a study that we launched almost 2 years ago on the trends in responsible business practice in the Middle East, but because we're very short on time, I'm going to do this in the form of an interview with my colleague and head of research, Salma Stayah. We'll try to get out all the most important data, and we'll still put in some slides, so bear with us because we're not prepared for an interview, but we'll try anyway. So following the theme of Dr. Ashraf Al-Arabi about this notion of happiness in Egypt and promoting happiness in Egypt, a couple of months ago, my company did the first ever workshop on happiness in the workplace. And one of the things that came out from people in the room who attended this workplace is employees really feel the need to be appreciated and empowered. My colleague Salma Sayah, I would love to take credit for this very amazing study, but Salma Sayah, sitting to my left, she's a 26-year-old who managed a 7-country mapping on her own. She's one of Egypt's brightest youth, and I could not do this presentation without her by my side. So let's give her a round of applause, please. So Salma, very quickly, can you share with the audience what the core objectives of the study were?
We wanted to understand what's happening on the ground in terms of corporate responsibility, and particularly what local companies are doing as opposed to, let's say, multinationals who are usually perceived as in the lead. And we also wanted to get an understanding of how local companies understand corporate responsibility, what's their understanding of international best practice, and how they perceive this as applicable or not applicable to the region. And this is why we chose to adopt a qualitative methodology. And then with this enhanced understanding, we can go forward, because you can't drive something forward if you do not understand it or do not understand your stakeholders' perspective. So this was really what we were trying to do.
Salma, did you have a question? I appreciate that, but we asked the organizers and they said either language is acceptable. We did the study, unfortunately, in English. يعني بتأسف لكم بس I will speak in the language that's comfortable for me, unfortunately. But I promise that the results, when they come out, هتطلع بالعربي بالإنجليزي. But for now, we're not prepared for that. So we will continue in English, and I apologize for that. We were told everyone was fluent in both languages, and that's what we're following. So let us continue on. Salma, can you tell us a little bit very quickly of the sampling and how we chose the companies and the sectors that were involved?
We also if you are familiar with trends in corporate responsibility, there are certain sectors that are usually leading, and we didn't want to focus on these sectors. So we chose to include a diversity of sectors within our study to get a better understanding. We also wanted to look at smaller companies and larger companies, because there's also this common perception that smaller companies are not able to adopt responsibility, so we wanted to delve deeper into that. And we also wanted to get an understanding of practices in both North Africa and the Gulf, and different countries within them, because you can't really group these regions, but they are grouped, so we were looking at different countries in both regions. And this is what the sample looked like.
And what were some of the key challenges that you faced in collecting the data?
As you all probably know, corporate responsibility is usually led by senior managers. So if senior management has buy-in, corporate responsibility will flourish in the company. So these are the executives that we were looking to recruit, and it was quite challenging. It's quite challenging to recruit a CEO or a senior manager. Also, we gathered a lot of data, open-ended, because this was qualitative, and it was a very lengthy process to process the data and make sense out of it. So I think these were the main two challenges.
Okay, so let's just go very quickly into the Egypt results. We interviewed a number of companies in Alexandria and in Cairo, and up here on the screen you have a word cloud of all of the words that companies affiliated corporate sustainability with. Can you tell us from this word cloud, what is the change that you've seen in terms of perceptions of CSR in Egypt? And for the record, at Ahead of the Curve, we don't use the term CSR anymore, but for the purposes of this conference, we will.
If you look at the cloud, you'll see words like company, responsibility, environment, and then community and society, kind of like the size of the word represents how frequently it was mentioned. And I think the most interesting thing is this realization that internal stakeholders are as important as external ones, as opposed to if you'd ask this question of what is sustainability or what is corporate responsibility, let's say 5 years ago, we were getting very different answers that are focused on, giving back to the community only and totally excluding internal stakeholders.
Yeah, and you no longer heard this word charity when you said
No.
CSR.
No.
So this brings us to one of the key findings from the Egypt study is Egypt as a whole, across the Middle East, has moved ahead of the curve in terms of what they affiliate CSR with. It's no longer the paradigm of charity. It's much more focused on the corporate, the company, internal management, etc. So in our study, we didn't just look at corporate responsibility as business and society. We went through a number of different aspects: good governance, management, environment, social investment, labor standards. And very quickly, Salma, what was the biggest finding with regards to governance and management systems did you find from the Egypt sample?
I think the awareness among large or small family businesses that are currently undergoing a generational transition in terms of leadership and the awareness of the need to adopt good governance practices, I think this is quite significant. But still, there are boards in place, but companies are still struggling when it comes to actually setting the codes and the guidelines to work with them. But the awareness is there, relatively speaking. Also because corporate responsibility is led by senior managers, so the managers who are also on the board are trying to include the narrative about corporate responsibility on the board. It's not like a formal representation of an ESG committee or a corporate responsibility committee on the board, but there's someone talking this talk on the board. When it comes to...
Yeah, so just very quickly, can you tell everyone how many actual corporate responsibility managers do we have in Egypt? So there is a myth that every company has a designated CSR manager or someone responsible. Is this true?
No. Mostly companies that we included in the sample appoint different parts of corporate responsibility to different functions. So let's say health and safety to health and safety, human resource aspects to HR departments, and the number that actually has a corporate responsibility function that's designated to managing the entire scope of corporate responsibility was lower, which I think this makes sense because resources are limited and they're kind of doing with what they have, you know.
So it's not necessary to have a CSR manager as long as someone is adopting the function.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to management systems, our findings have shown that the majority of management systems executed have to do with business performance, quality, health, and safety, but very little to do with actually measuring things affiliated with sustainability or corporate responsibility, which is up here on the top of the pyramid. Do you have any comments on that very quickly?
I think this is, okay, so a main thing that came up as part of the study is that within companies you'd find a lot of discrepancies in practice. A company could be doing really well on health and safety, but really horribly on other aspects. So this discrepancy, I think this reflects it. If you adopt a management system that focuses on this particular part of responsibility, so you're doing really well on it, but the adoption of a more comprehensive system for managing responsibility as a whole is not common, so it's not unified, it's not overarching.
What about disclosure? Where are we on reporting in comparison to the rest of the region? We're not doing so bad, are we?
Yeah, I think we're not doing that bad, but in general, this notion of disclosure is not really big, I guess, in our part of the world yet, I would say. But what's I think something significant is that the panel before us were talking about the Global Compact, and there's more interest now in the Global Compact, and I think it's a stepping stone to other more comprehensive disclosure, like let's say the GRI. So we're probably getting there, and I think that especially with more demand for more transparency when it comes to how the money is being made.
What's your advice to the ecosystem to get more companies to report?
I think that the perception needs to change. It's not about doing everything perfectly. Reporting is about being transparent and disclosing. So I think if this understanding of what reporting is about changes, that you're just being transparent, then everyone will get into the practice of reporting. And another thing is, it's not just about transparency, it's also about you understanding where you stand and then being able to to enhance your performance. So if you don't actually track your performance for the purpose of reporting it, you won't know where you stand with regards to different aspects of responsibility.
So on the panel earlier, both ministers spoke about the need to engage different sectors, different stakeholders. Stakeholder engagement is a core component of responsible business practice, but unfortunately, we're still very much focused on engaging only our shareholders as opposed to our clients, our employees, our local communities, and our suppliers. What was the reaction of the people you interviewed specifically to this question about why they weren't engaging other stakeholders as aggressively as they engage their shareholders? Or is it lack of awareness about this whole notion?
I think it's a lack of awareness. When you ask people, when you were asking executives about stakeholder engagement, very few would include local communities, let's say, or surrounding communities in their stakeholder sphere as part of their first response. There had to be some probing. So I think it's an issue of awareness and prioritization. It's thinking long term. If you don't realize the impact of a stakeholder like the direct surrounding community on your operations, you won't prioritize them, you won't include them in your engagement practices.
Her Excellency, Dr. Ghadawali mentioned the need to focus on labor and human resource management, and I think Egypt is fully compliant with labor standards, but they fall a little bit behind when it comes to investing in top talent and in upgrading the capacity of their employees. Can you very briefly talk about the findings with regards to investing in our labor and specifically training? Because in terms of policies and wages, we are compliant.
Compliant, but compliant with what? That's a question to ask also. When it comes to investing in trainings, honestly, not a lot of the companies were doing anything ahead of the curve or beyond what's typically done when it comes to training. All companies interviewed, small and large, mentioned that employees are trained at one point in time, but like, what are you training them on? And how comprehensive are the training? How equal are the opportunities for training? These are all things that we need to think about that are not very equitable in companies. But we also have to be fair when it comes to SMEs. SMEs are struggling because if there's a risk. If you invest in training your employees, there's always a risk of a larger company actually attracting this employee, and then your investment is no longer serving your company. So this is also a dilemma that needs to be resolved in a way or another.
Okay, and then one more component is environment, and this is the one area that I think Egypt is ahead but also behind. So can you tell everyone where we're doing well and where we're lacking and what needs focus on moving forward?
So because, as we were saying, there are a lot of management systems being adopted which include components of, let's say, proper waste disposal, tracking materials, tracking resources being used. So the companies are actually tracking water, tracking materials, tracking energy use. It's an aspect of complying with management systems and also tracking costs. So when it comes to tracking, the people we talked with are doing fine, and it makes sense because of the country's current economic and the energy situation in general. But when it comes to reducing use, we didn't find a lot of innovation, and I think there has to be much more innovation when it comes to looking at how you can actually reduce the impact of your operations, how you can incorporate technology, how you can incorporate things that are ahead of what's happening in the current ecosystem to reduce your impact and not just monitor your costs.
Okay. So supply chain management is a big part of corporate responsibility that nobody really talks about. Usually when we have discussions about CSR, it's always about either philanthropy or social investing or the environment, impact on the environment. But supply chain management can actually have a lot of influence on the way companies perform. Where is Egypt when it comes to engaging its suppliers? And this is something that is very dear to Selma's heart. So you can already see she's not very happy about where we are.
I think the supply chain is the biggest opportunity for driving corporate responsibility in any country, and particularly here. And it's not that the companies do not monitor or select their suppliers based on particular standards. They do, but they mainly prioritize suppliers based on cost and quality. When it comes to quality, it's meeting, if you deal with another company that requires certain criteria, that's how you're going to select your suppliers. So they're monitoring based on like quality, in certain cases environmental performance, but when it comes to things like human rights, this is an area that's almost completely neglected, and this is where a lot of the violations take place. When it comes to preferring local suppliers, which is really important for contributing to the country's economy, while there aren't a lot of companies that actually have a policy that obviously says that we will prefer local suppliers, it's a common practice, which is, I think that's the positive side of things.
Okay, and this is the last component that we're going to talk about, and I think this is the part that Egypt has been doing very well in, definitely in comparison to the 6 other countries that were in the study, including the Gulf. We were very much ahead of the curve in the sense of the programs that we were implementing and how institutionalized we were in giving back to society. So, Salma, can you very quickly just give the audience your impressions about where Egypt is in terms of social investing, and is there innovation or not innovation when it comes to how companies interface with society?
So what we found is that we have the highest number of institutionalized programs or corporate foundations, and the interesting thing about this, about the qualitative side of things, is that it's not like you start off as being the most strategic corporate social investor, but you go through a journey of starting with a particular moral obligation, let's say, and then you move on to focusing, and then you move on to tying to core business. Speaking of ties to core business, we also had the highest number of companies that are actually investing in areas that are tied to core business. But generally, the number of companies across the entire sample that invest in areas tied to core business was not really high. The most popular, let's say, sectors of investment were things like entrepreneurship and employment, community development, so things like income generation, investing in the infrastructure of communities. Education was also very popular, and health. You're asking about innovation. There were a couple of very interesting and very innovative examples of social investments that really tie core business with a pressing challenge, but I wouldn't say it's the norm. It's not the norm, unfortunately. Not yet, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, good. So I think another key finding was that actually in Egypt we're more driven by business objectives than we are by the need to be good to society. So we think of CSR in the sense of how it's going to improve our business, and not just as a feel-good exercise. And I have to say that this is much better than we were in 2009. And the UNDP will be releasing a new report on business and society, and there will be a big difference. We've moved forward, took many leaps forward in terms of how business thinks of responsible business practice and sustainability, where it's now very much focused on how can sustainability improve the business and not just about how can business improve society. So I think, because we're short on time, I think there's a lot of opportunities for Egypt based on the results of our study. And I'll just ask Salma one final question to the group of people who are here for the next 2 days who are going to be talking about CSR in Egypt. Where are the opportunities for this country? Because the results of our study were 125 companies, SMEs and large companies and multinationals were interviewed across the region. We were very pleasantly surprised to see that Egypt had the biggest potential moving forward. So what are your thoughts and what would be your recommendations for how to capitalize on this opportunity?
Again, I would say the supply chain. I think we really need to capitalize on companies that are already championing in this sphere, that have the power and have the expertise to pass on this approach to companies in their supply chain and to help enforce it. And I think also we need to continue working on the social investment side of things to achieve real impact and to sustain what's out there right now. And I think we also need to really work on empowering SMEs to adopt corporate responsibility because let's be realistic, it's not easy being, let's say, a company that actually complies with principles of integrity, transparency, and non-corruption. It could be more viable to do that as a larger company with more power, and something has to be done about how the ecosystem is enabling SMEs to adopt the different aspects of corporate responsibility. And I think also it all starts with governance. So we do have requirements for how companies should be governed, but these are limited to particular types of companies, and they need to be taken beyond that.
Yeah. Very good. I think in general, the private sector in Egypt has become very active, and we hope that what's going to happen is that there will be a lot more focus on how the private sector can critically engage with some of the country's biggest problems in a much more meaningful way that doesn't have to just do with giving money. I think the private sector has reached a point where it's ahead of the curve. Unfortunately, civil society and NGOs are not there. They still perceive the private sector as a cash cow and not as a partner. And I hope that we will move into becoming a lot more ahead of the curve, starting from now and with this conference and with a lot more dedication to both internal and external responsible business practice. This study will be released in English and in Arabic at the end of June 2015. The full 7-country study will be released, but if anybody wants more details, I'm sorry this was very brief, please send us an email and we're happy to send you the results as well. I don't know if we're allowed to take any questions, but no questions. Again, I apologize that this was in English, the organizers told us, but I'm a firm believer that you should articulate yourself in the language where you feel most comfortable. But next time we will prepare it in Arabic.